Good morning, all. It's great to be home. My name is Laron Burrows. I'm a chemical engineer in a biomass renewable energy plant in California. I was born and raised in Grand Bahama. I went to school in St. George's High School, but thank you. I now live and work in California, and one of the reasons I'm here is because of my project. So as a chemical engineer, I like to test and experiment. I test business models, and I also test chemicals. One of my most successful products or projects is Urio. It stands for your inputs and your outputs. It's a biomedical diagnostic device company. We use artificial intelligence to analyze your biological sample and determine what your potential diseases are in under a minute. To do that and to get to where I'm at right now was not easy, and it was not quick. I made a lot of mistakes early on, and hopefully through my presentation today, I could present you with a pathway to take all the inspiration that you got from this summit to actually do some work. Now, clicker. Oh, wow, that was quick. Okay, from this summit so far, the government has got a very long checklist, a very long list of action items that they need to do. That's all well and good, and that was needed to happen. But now it's time for you guys who wants to be entrepreneurs and technology entrepreneurs to get an action item list, because you no longer have an excuse. After this presentation and after the day, you no longer have an excuse. The government has their work to do, but you also have your work to do as entrepreneurs. When I first got started, I made all the entrepreneurial mistakes. I had an idea, thought it was a perfect idea. All I needed to do was just build a prototype, create a vision, find some investors, sell them on this vision, and I'm on my way to $1 million. So there I went. As a technology person, that's what you're going to do, right? You like technology, you're probably going to start building things quickly. I took an Arduino, a Raspberry Pi, slapped some sensors together, and really MacGyvered a medical diagnostic device. I found some investors to listen to me 2 weeks later, and then I went to them and pitched them on my idea. It was a panel of 6 investors from the medical diagnostic device company or industry. They loved my pitch. They believed in the vision, they saw the dream, up until the last 2 slides. And if you're doing a 10-slide template for pitching, your last 2 slides are your financials, telling them how much you need and then how much you're going to make, right? So I told them, in 2 years, I'm going to make $2 million, and all I need from you is $20,000. And they said, wow, that's a return, right? But one of the investors talked to me afterwards. I didn't get the money, by the way. One of the investors talked to me afterwards and said, you have a great idea, you really have something here, but you do not understand the market. Because you think that you could actually take a medical diagnostic device and actually go to market in under a year and then be profitable, we know you don't understand the market, right? So I went out there, I fell flat on my face trying to pitch to some investors, some experts in the area. And my talk is to hopefully cause you to avoid the same mistakes that I have. When I was at a tech conference in Michigan, it was actually a medical diagnostic conference in Michigan. 10 months later, one of those investors from the panel of 6 reached out to me saying they heard about the pivots I've made, they heard about my technology, and they wanted a meeting with me. The meeting was so that that person could ask to be hired on to my company. So how did I go from them knowing that I didn't know anything to them wanting to be a part of my company and wanting to be a part of my startup? And that's a part of my talk. So the first thing that I'll say to all you tech entrepreneurs, it is very important, put down your prototype. Put it on hold. Because I had a coach. The coach was IBM's Innovation Center Director, as well as some consultants from the Harvard Medical School. They do biomedical diagnostic devices all the time. They told me, Laron, do you have a prototype? I would like to see the vision that you're trying to portray, right? And I said, great. Finally, someone wants to see my Arduino. Finally, someone wants to see my open breadboard and my Raspberry Pi device, right? And to my surprise, they said, no, I do not want to see it. I want you to take your prototype, put it in a box and put it in a closet. I don't want you to see it either. Because if you made a prototype without understanding your market or your customer demographic, you made the wrong prototype. All right? And what you're going to do is you're going to take that prototype and try to sell it when you listen to your customers. When you go to businesses and you try to understand their problems, you're going to say, well, I already solved that, and here's my prototype, right? You're not going to really be listening. So he wanted to make sure I took my prototype, put it away, lock it in a closet, and don't really look at it anymore. And then follow on to my next other slides. Ooh, wow, that was quick. Okay, so some things you're doing wrong. I think this is a good picture. But some things you're doing wrong, and you have to accept that. You have to accept that when you're getting started, you're going to learn, you're going to fail, and you're going to make mistakes. And again, some things you are doing wrong. When I first started, I had a business consultant, and she told me, Laron, you need to make a business plan. I said, I don't know how to make a business plan. This isn't my thing. Business isn't my thing. And she said, you still need to make a business plan for someone to see your vision and for you to communicate it clearly. So there I went to my dorm room to make a fictional story, really, of how I'm going to take a medical diagnostic device company, grow it from 0 to 5,000 users in 2 years in a B2B business model and be profitable in 2 years, right? Fiction, all fiction. And when I submitted my business plan to my consultant for review, she tore it apart. Every 4 lines of text had a paragraph of commentary. And at the end of it, the last comment was, Laron, we are signing you up for 2 classes at the University of Michigan so you can learn how to actually write a business plan and learn the business fundamentals, right? I said, okay, that's fine. At the time, I was living in Ann Arbor and working in the corporate office of my company, so it was not too far to go to. But I was open to that criticism. I was open to someone saying, Laron, you don't know what you need to know to do this. And in the Bahamas, we have a culture of perfection almost, right? And I think it's going to be one of the things we have to tackle to really be entrepreneurs. We have to be open to say, I have an idea, but I don't completely have the concept down. Who could I go to help me, right? I was seeking out people. In the US, they have the Small Business Administration. It's perfect. It's all free. They have consultants, resources. But I was still seeking out people to grill me, tell me, what am I doing wrong? How could I do it better? So she signed me up for some classes, and that's my next slide. You have to commit to learning the fundamentals. At this time, I was already in school. I was in Kettering University doing chemical engineering classes in my senior year, and I took on 2 other business courses at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, because I needed to learn the fundamentals. You have to commit to learning the fundamentals of business and entrepreneurship if you want any idea to succeed. I mean, if you want to be an inventor in your garage and as a hobby, right, you could create things, don't really care what happens, you can do that. But if you really want to be an entrepreneur and start a business, you're going to have to commit to learning the fundamentals. I've read countless books, cover to cover, probably 5 times or more, because if you're reading entrepreneurial books, when the first time you read it, you're in the ideation phase, right? You have the idea, you're trying to figure it out. The second time you read it, you may be in the product development phase. You may see some more insights that they talk about in the product development phase. The third time you read it, you may be in the patenting phase. And you remember that this book talked about some obscure patenting strategy, and now it's helping you in every phase of your development as an entrepreneur. So it's not just getting the book, reading it once. It's reading it over and over as you go through your entrepreneurial venture. And that's important. That's key. The internet has leveled the playing field for the most part. It's now just up to you to commit to learning the fundamentals, seek out those resources, and then use them. At the end of my presentation, I'll provide you with, I think, 5 books that I've used, and I would say that helped me a lot to help you commit to learning the fundamentals as well. So the next thing is know your market. So the last slide was more of a general education of business and entrepreneurship. This is the slide where you get specific, right? If you want to be in the medical diagnostic device industry or market, What does that mean? How do products really get created? What is my market like? And to be honest, this is not the exciting part. I was reading, at the time, I was reading the Affordable Care Act to understand how this creates pressure for larger hospital institutions, right? And it was a very volatile time because it was the election. So what are the policies that the two candidates are going to propose that will affect and influence my business? If you don't know that, you may be creating a business when a market has completely changed, right? When policy came in and you're no longer valid. I was reading all the diagnostic device reports. I was reading probably 24 gigabytes of information on data, information, and research of who was buying this device, where were they buying it, how are they using it. Because once you do your homework, and our presenter, Shadan from Google yesterday talked about how he was tired of doing his homework, but he realized he always has to do his homework. So once you do your homework on your market, the people in your market will respect you for what you know. And they'll say, okay, this guy actually knows the market, right? He isn't going to think he's going to make a medical diagnostic device in 2 years and make $2 million, right? You've done your homework, and now you can gain some respect from the people in the industry, even though you're a chemical engineer. So do your homework and know your market. Another very important part of a technology entrepreneur's business is studying patents. Again, this is a very specific part of your education for innovation, right? General education was just the fundamentals. Specific, know your market. More specific, know your patent. At first I was studying, when I first did my prototype, I was studying the patent landscape. This is a continuous process, by the way. You don't just study patents and then you forget them. This is a continuous studying if you want to really be on the cutting edge. I found a patent that was doing something very similar to my early prototype. And I thought, in my young greenness of being an entrepreneur, I'll just contact this person. I'll say, okay, what are you doing with this patent? Do you want to sell it to me? Could I use it? Stuff like that. I didn't know much about the licensing agreements and rights at that time. But sure enough, he was a medical doctor, a practicing medical doctor, and he just was waiting for a company, large company, probably like Quest Diagnostics, to come in, look at his patent, and then purchase it from him, or either a licensing agreement, right? So you'll meet people in the patent landscape that has patents that may control your technology and they don't want to commercialize it. They are in the business of license agreements. You're going to meet that, and you need to learn that pretty quickly before you create a prototype that is already patented and waste a lot of time, right? So you start with a patent overview, patent search, and then throughout your development and your pivots, you continue this. So more recently, in the last probably 6 months, a Chinese diagnostic company filed a very similar patent to what I wanted to do. But it was interesting. They filed under very weird claims, right? So this is how you have to get into the specifics of your industry. It was like if you were trying to catch the rain and you create a device called a rain catcher. This rain catcher moves horizontally in a 10-foot distance and catches the rain. And you look at that and they say, that's weird. Why would you do it that way? Why don't you just put a bucket on the floor, right? And so my technology in this space is a bucket on the floor. Although the patent will say something similar to what you're doing, you have to really get into the nitty-gritty of what they are claiming to do. Now, the patent landscape in the Bahamas is, I would say, new, probably untapped, but strapping yourself to very specialized patent attorneys can assist you in this study. I've had patent attorneys that worked for pharmaceutical companies and in the medical device industry. They're pretty good in their industry, right? They helped me out a lot. But the good thing about this is experts generally write books. And it goes back to reading again, goes back to your education. Experts write books. They write books to show you a pathway of how to do something. They show you a pathway. So even if you may not have connection to that person, you could pick up their book and say, wow, this person in the medical device industry just laid out how to create a biomedical diagnostic device. Oh, and I probably could find them on LinkedIn, right? So that's your follow-up. This is one of the more important parts I would like to stress to my technology entrepreneurs. I spent probably 2 months on the actual technology of my business and 11 trying to find product market fit. Okay? So product market fit is the degree at which your product solves a market demand. Market demand. So there are problems in the market, like mosquito bite problems, and there are shark bite problems. How many times have you been bit by a mosquito? I don't know, a couple, right? How many times have you been bit by a shark? Exactly. You would remember if you had been bit by a shark, right? Because it's a big bite. So that's how a lot of people in the industry talk about the problem size that you are solving. Is it a nuisance problem or is it a really big problem? Is it a really big market demand for the solution you are presenting? This is very important because I know a lot of people in Silicon Valley, in California, in the United States that create apps that no one wants, websites no one uses, and products no one cares for because they did not do the studying of their customer demographic and their segments. In the 90s, there was this company. I thought it was pretty funny what they were doing. It's a good idea, great concept, but here's the company. The company is called Webvan. In the 90s, they raised over $100 million in funding, venture capital funding, record-breaking for the 90s. Their concept is you can order food online, order your groceries online, and I will deliver it to your door. Perfect. The actual founder was a technology entrepreneur, great in software. And so once he got the funding, he went directly into product development. He said, okay, I'll take this money and I will now build my software so that when you go to my website, you click order, it mobilizes robots to go through all my warehouse and my shelves to pick your grocery, put it in a bag, put it on the side for a delivery agent, right? They went through all the product development, they did everything their board of directors told them to do, and then in 11 months, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy because no one asks, where are my customers? No one asks, what would happen when my customers order milk and chocolate and it's left out in the sun? What would happen when my customers in apartments order a large shipment of groceries? What would happen with theft in different areas? What would happen with stray dogs or birds? You have food outside. What would happen if someone's at work and ordering food so that when they come home it'll be there, but they're not really there, so you're waiting, and your delivery agent is tied up? These are laughable questions, to be honest, but they could have saved that company if they had done this research on their customers and their customer demographics. And the funny part about this is there are companies in Australia, parts of Africa, as well as the United States that do this exact same thing. But they asked where their customers were. They found a specific niche of people, working professionals, who would like to cook, but do not have time to go to the store. And they cater to that specific market, not saying, I will go to everybody and anybody. And they are successful. They're still in business today. So I guess one lesson from that is, if you have a business model that didn't work somewhere else, you could take it to the Bahamas and it may work. That is a very commonplace thing to do in the entrepreneurial world. A lot of people, when they hear about studying your customers, a lot of tech people, they would say, why would I need to study my customers? They don't even understand my technology. I have the best technology out there. They don't even understand how I'm going to change their world. And they would say, the old age example, when Steve Jobs made the iPod, no one knew they wanted 1,000 songs in their pocket, right? That's great. But Steve Jobs and the iPod story is a very unique story. So unique, there's a book about it. It's called The Blue Ocean Strategy. So in the Blue Ocean Strategy, and I'll adapt the animals for the Bahamian Ocean, but in the Blue Ocean Strategy, if you enter a market, you have groupers, you have barracudas, you have snappers, and you have a shark, right? The size of those fish represent the size of the different companies in your market. When Steve Jobs entered the iPod market, it was a blue ocean. There was nobody in front of him. But a lot of tech entrepreneurs believe that they and their product is the new Steve Jobs, and they do not have to talk to customers. And if you believe that, I cannot convince you otherwise. I would just say let other people say that about you. Don't let it get to your head. But you still have to focus on your customers, right? The rest of the room who doesn't believe that, we have to focus on our customers. And it's very important. Again, I spent 11 months trying to find my product market fit. And if you think it's difficult, try talking to a doctor when you're telling him your technology will actually undermine his industry. Try talking to a doctor that's a urologist, making a lot of money doing his work in a very archaic process, and you say your technology will undermine his business, take clients away from him, and give customers or patients the power to actually own their own data, right? That's difficult. That's why it took 11 months. No, but really, it's difficult, and you have to do it because you do not want to create products that no one wants and apps that no one uses. So in closing, here are the resources. This is a technology event. You don't have to take notes. Take a picture of the slide. We're promoting technology. So these are the books that I come to time and time again. And they will change the way you try to implement a technology business in the Bahamas. They will. The Lean Startup, I believe, is one of the more groundbreaking ones that will culturally change business in the Bahamas, because the Lean Startup model is I create the very minimum, the minimum viable product, MVP. I create that, and then I get out there and I go and test it. I get out there and I ask my customers, would you buy this? And then they say, no, I wouldn't buy it. And you don't go back to your office. You said, okay, well, why wouldn't you buy it? What could I add to it? What problem is it solving for you? Is this not solving a problem? And then you try to help them find a solution to your problem. So you iterate. This is a constant iterative cycle as you do your product development. It's not, I'll stay in my garage, perfect a product, and then go out there and fail. The Startup Owner's Manual, written by Steve Blank. He's a professor at the Stanford School of Business. He is a revolutionary person in the industry of entrepreneurial ventures and startups. He has started a course called the Customer Discovery. I've taken probably 3 of his customer discovery courses at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. It is funded by the National Science Foundation, and his whole model of customer discovery is, it's tech summit. His whole model of customer discovery is you need to get out of the building. The answers do not exist in your office. The answers do not exist in your garage. They do not exist in your head. The answers exist outside of the building. If you do not have data to back you, and even if you do, you have to go out of the building, your office, and talk to your customers. Talk to the people who will actually be the end user, the influencer, the technical buyer, or maybe the person who will sabotage your product. You have to get outside the building. It's a very revolutionary idea. Hooked. Hooked is a marketing book. When I first read Hooked, I stopped all social media, because Hooked explains how you will create a website or an app that will be so addictive that you hook your customers. So it's really a psychological book about marketing and creating products and how you create very addictive products. But again, it does warn, I would say it ethically warns you to not create things that are addictive for bad reasons. But it is a great book to read for your product development, of how to either engage your customers when they are interacting with your app, engage your customers on your product, probably provide perks. I mean, there's a formula as to why Candy Crush is so successful. And the person who wrote Hook studied Candy Crush and spoke with the creator of Candy Crush. There's a reason why Farmville was so successful, why Facebook is so successful, because it hooks people in. And all of that is explained in that book, and I don't want to get too much into it. The 4 Steps to the Epiphany is also written by Steve Blank. Steve Blank, the Stanford professor of School of Business. And it details strategies to product development. So strategies like outsourcing, strategies like creating it all yourself, or versus outsourcing, strategies to actually implement a business, and different business models. So if you have a business on a subscription base versus a pay-to-play based business model, it details all those strategies. The last one is the Young Entrepreneur's Guide to Starting and Running a Business. And that's self-explanatory. It is a very long book. I've read it a few times, and I said travel with this book. This is one of the books I actually bought, the physical copy of. I keep most of my books in a Kindle. But this book I actually bought because I liked it so much. And it details how you can be a young entrepreneur running and starting your business. How to not be arrogant in doing so, how to be patient with the process, and how to actually implement and start your business. So I believe with these resources, this is just a start. Again, the internet, use and leverage the internet. The internet levels the playing field for everybody. And again, the government has their checklists. It's time for you guys to have an action item list as well, right? It's time for you to get to work. Because if we want to attract businesses like Google and Apple to be here, we have to remember, WhatsApp was not created by Facebook. YouTube was not created by Google. Instagram was not created by Facebook as well, neither Oculus Rift. They were created by entrepreneurs like yourself. And they were bought by these companies and acquired by these companies. And so we cannot use the same business model that we used to attract previous businesses. We have to use a different one. We have to build it ourselves, build our own solutions. And then maybe they'll purchase our solutions when they enter the third world market. Because guess what? The thing about business is you're always looking to expand. So when Google wants to expand to the Bahamas market or the Caribbean market, and they see we've created a solution, you're going to be acquired. That's your exit. That's your happy day as an entrepreneur. So start building our own solutions here. And now it's your time. It's your time to get to work. Here's your resources. The internet leverages or levels the playing field. And I would encourage you all to use the resources that were provided and enjoy the rest of this summit. Thank you.